Welcome to episode number 14 of the WWIM podcast. That's WWIM podcast, Women Who Inspire Me. I'm your host, Dave McGrath, here with producer Mark Branson, and our guest, the amazing, multi-talented musician, teacher, improv performer, comic, writer. What am I missing? Sarah Infini T. What am I missing in that description?
You didn't mention the fact that I was the most wanted babysitter never, but could have been because I'm very childlike most of the time.
I've been told that. I think that's why I get along with elementary school kids so well at my job.
It's a little disappointing. People never mention that fact. I am a potentially really lucrative, successful babysitter.
Okay.
I have been told in my dreams.
But piano playing is probably your number one. Is that your number one talent, would you say?
Yeah.
How did you get there? Bring us through that journey of.
Should we talk about my dreams, hopes, or should we talk about my not tiger mom, Japanese parents' dreams and hopes? Which one should we talk about?
Well, let's talk about how they collided, right?
So
you were born in Japan?
That is the trick question of today, because when people look at me, they don't see, a white. I don't know. I don't look white or purple. But my dad had an international business.
Okay.
Which was based in Japan, but it was all over the world. And one of the places that they wanted him to go was Alaska, United States. I believe if people know their geography, Alaska is part of the United States. Some people didn't know.
One of the few states I haven't been to.
Okay, so incidentally, apparently I was accidentally born in Alaska.
Okay.
Yeah, which still makes me Japanese because we did do the DNA test just to say maybe that would make me American, white. But anyway, so I was born in Alaska, but when I was 1 year old, we went back to Japan. Okay. So I don't remember any of Alaska.
Okay, that makes sense.
But so my first language is Japanese, and then my second language would be English.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how long were you in Japan? After moving there when you were 1?
So at 8 years old, we moved to Seattle for a few years. And then we went back to Japan in 7th grade. And this is my funny story. I did 7th grade in 3 different schools. It was it was a very strange education lapse that I have. I never had 5th grade in my life. I went from 4th to 6th grade because I was in a progressive school. And then when I entered 7th grade, I could never get out of 7th grade. I finished 7th grade in Seattle, went to Tokyo, Japan.
And you were way behind.
2 semesters.
Were you way behind everyone because they're way far advanced, right?
Well, in Japan, the school system starts in April, not September.
Okay.
So we were done in June. But I was done with 7th grade in America in June. Right. But we were in Japan.
It just started.
Japan just started in April.
Right.
So I just did 7th grade again. Oh. But we were only there for 8 months. So I did 2 semesters of 7th grade in Japan. And then my dad got another job, this time with the Japanese government, where they wanted him to go to Washington, D.C. and work on some foreign treaty between Japan and U.S. on some really cool stuff. But anyway, so when we moved to United States, Washington, D.C., the following April, and my mom, being a super sweet, deferential woman, being very polite, when we went to the principal's office, and the principal simply asked, "So what grade?" She had no idea that the Japanese school system was different. So the principal asked my mom, "So what grade was Sarah in Japan?" And she figured this would be a no-brainer. Whatever the grade she was in Japan would be the grade.
Same grade.
Yeah. So my mom just quietly said, 7th grade, like that. And then the principal was, "Oh, okay, we'll just put her
in the 7th." So you did it again.
So I did April to June in a new school in Maryland for 2 months of 7th grade. So I went to 7th grade Seattle, 7th grade Japan, another 2 months of 7th grade in another like junior high school. So I just never got out of seventh
Were
grade.
you playing piano at this point? When did you start?
That is how I got out of seventh grade. Absolutely. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I did start piano when I was 5 years old in Japan. And was that my dream and hopes and wish? No.
That your parents just said you're learning
It's more
piano.
that I look like I should be playing the piano along with my brother and my sister, meaning 3 of the children were just simply forced to play piano. And I was the youngest one. And so there it was. I had to play the piano, hated it. Well, not really hated it. It's just that, it took 30 minutes out of my day to not be playing outside with your friends.
Right. You wanted to do normal kid stuff.
Yeah. So we did that. And then when we moved to Seattle, my sister was already really, really good. And so apparently they decided my sister should audition for the best teacher in Seattle. And when she went to audition, I went along with my sister, and I'm 7 years younger, so I was like still super cute and little.
Right.
And apparently the teacher was impressed with my sister, took my sister, and then asked, "Who is that little cute little girl? Your sister. Does she play piano?" And my mom was like, "Yes." And then said, "Let's just take her too." And so I didn't even play.
Wow.
Got
you were with the best teacher.
Yeah, with the best teacher.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's my really fun story of.
But at some point, you decided that's what you want, right? I mean, you kept going with it. You haven't stopped.
Okay, I like to do.
Right?
I'm gonna add some facial gestures. This is a video podcast, not a radio podcast. So all the viewers out there, this is how I felt about. At some point, did I choose piano?
No.
And this means the same thing in Japan.
Wait, so is it still coming from your parents to do this? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. They gotta be pretty impressed, and
I just started winning competitions.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
I
Are you competitive? Are you?
Yeah. Like here, check this out. So, and then when we moved to Washington D.C., we even got to an even more like super famous one of the best teachers in America. She was a college professor. She studied with Nadia Boulanger. I don't know if that rings a bell, Mark, but so she was like a super famous teacher that the Seattle teacher recommended we contact for recommendation.
Okay.
So we didn't think she would take us because she's a college professor, Nelita True. But when we went to meet Dr. True, I played some pieces, and then when I was done, she said, "Just wait a second, let me get my husband." And her husband was like a super famous international competition jury. He won all these competitions, and he was this very famous Portuguese pianist, and he came downstairs. Incidentally, he was half her height. Like she was like 6 feet tall, and he was like 4 feet. It was like interesting marriage. But anyway, so she goes, "Oh, here's my sweet little husband, Fernando Lyras," and so she goes, "Oh, can you just do what you just played for me?" And I did. And then the cute little really sweet, amazing Portuguese pianist walked up to me and took my hand and said, "You're already a little pianist." And apparently that was how she got the permission. She had to ask her husband
if it was okay to.
Yeah, because apparently she's been complaining to her husband like she's too busy.
Oh yeah,
she
doesn't
have any time. She's been complaining, and she didn't have any non-college students, and so she was like, "Can I take her?" And he was like, "Yes, you're a little pianist." So. And then so that's when my serious competition training began. In 1 year, she was an amazing teacher, and I think she sent me to competitions like every month. In 1 year, I literally won 10 competitions.
Whoa!
Like,
and you're a teenager. You're like 14, 15.
Yeah, and I made like thousands of dollars.
Whoa!
And, got stuff for my family.
Yeah.
And and that was that. But But at the same time, maybe that same year, I wrote a 10-page letter to my parents and my teacher saying, I really, really want to quit. And then I had 10 arguments.
Oh, my God.
It was 10 pages. And then at the last final argument was, hey, and besides, if you let me quit, you'll save this much amount of money.
For the lessons?
Yeah. And then I put it on the kitchen table, went to bed, woke up, went downstairs for breakfast. And my mom took one hard look at me, took this long piece of paper, and we made eye contact, and she just took this piece of paper and she tore it in half and then threw it in the garbage. No word, no conversation.
Nothing. Yeah, we're not talking about it. This is what I think about this. It's done.
So
you're still doing it.
Yep. So I kept on playing the piano without.
So
it was never my decision.
So you must be, but that's how good you are. You don't want to do it, and you're still winning.
No,
that must be how good you are. Or is it just you want to win?
Yeah,
or
I mean,
or a part of it is there just something inside you that's good at piano? The whole practice versus just talent versus that conversation.
I think.
Where do you feel about that?
I think it's just, now that I'm teaching piano, this is what I say to the parents. The parents will be like, "Oh, my boy or my son, he doesn't seem to like the piano," and I just smile and say, "No, it's not that he doesn't like the piano. He just doesn't like the practicing part of the piano." And I think I would agree. I think it was probably the same thing.
Yeah,
it was more like I like music,
right.
and when I'm playing well, it is fun, but I just don't like the practicing part, I think. And it's very solitary because it's not like you're in a marching band,
right?
You're not in an orchestra, you don't have other kids.
But those moments, I know, I learning guitar, that first day that I could play chords and switch my hands without looking blew my mind.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God.
That's
now
awesome.
I can play, I can almost
that is
play,
amazing.
right?
Wow.
But did you have that breakthrough moment on piano?
I think every time. So I think, every time I started playing more advanced pieces and, the music is gorgeous.
Right.
So as you get better,
you just want to chase that more complicated,
the
more.
does get better.
Yeah.
It's just very, very solitary. And literally I had no social life. You guys know, my first boyfriend was age 27. And it's not even high school. I had no social life in high school. I didn't even go to 12th grade. This was a weird thing. I never got out of 7th grade, but I also got to skip out of 12th grade.
Right.
And then, so no prom, no dating, no nothing. And then I go to college, and this is the tragic part of my life. It's a little bit, I don't really want to go into it.
Sure.
My sister was older, but she was also a pianist, went to the same school. And
which was
New England Conservatory in Boston.
Okay.
And
which is one of the best musical schools in the world, right?
World class, yeah.
Is Berkeley, is it up there with Berkeley? Or even
Berkeley
higher than Berkeley? Or?
No, Berkeley and NEC have nothing in common. Berkeley is a pop
they're different.
Jazz school.
Okay, so they're just different types of music.
Yeah, different.
Yeah, right.
Different.
But both world renowned.
Yeah.
Right?
But New England Conservatory piano is classically, it's top level.
Right, okay.
But anyway, so my sister had gone, and I thought it was my turn, and she was supposed to go back to Japan, but it turned out she really wanted to stay in America, but she was supposed to live on her own. I was supposed to get in the, live in the dorm and, have a college life and go to the parties or whatever. And I was looking forward to it, except that when it was my turn, my sister somehow convinced my parents that she could use my dorm money to find an apartment and that she could live with me. And somehow convinced my parents, since she's older and knew what Boston is like, somehow be the older sister, take care of me without, I was never part of this discussion.
Right.
So one day I found out that I couldn't go to the dorm and my sister was going to live with me. And then that began 5 years of, it turned out to be officially a very abusive, toxic relationship where I ended up also never having any social life, but she was monitoring exactly what I was doing every single day.
Your sister was, and reporting it to your parents.
Yeah, so no, she wasn't reporting back.
Oh,
she was Friday night
she was
practicing. Saturday
she became your mom almost,
but it was not just
for every aspect of your life, basically.
Yeah, no, literally 5 years later, I woke up in the intensive care unit and had a grand mal seizure, and I almost died.
Oh my God!
And it was because of the incredible torture I went through. It wasn't just that. There was a lot more, but I don't want to focus this thing on that.
That's fine. And so you were taking classes and doing all that in the middle of this?
Yeah, but my sister literally made sure, like, I tried to date one guy at age 22. Literally, she basically pulled my hair from the next day, and she said, you need to pick between that boy and me. And she said, you can't date like this. You are with me. Like, so I wasn't allowed to date, go on. I've never been to one college party. I've never had any drug experience, for those of you. I just act like I know what I'm doing. So that's my drug hand gestures, incidentally.
The rule is if it comes out of the ground, it's safe. Have you heard of that one? If it's a plant, then it's okay. If you have to process it in a factory, then it's bad.
Believe it or not, I'm not even there.
Fentanyl doesn't grow on trees, Dave?
No.
Oh.
So literally, I've never, like, basically all my childhood, I didn't get to play. All my high school, junior year, like, I never got to play. And then I went to college, never got to play. Right. Like, Friday night, Saturday night, I was practicing. Sunday morning, 9 a.m.
This kind of explains why you're so into improv. Like, that's a kid thing. Like, that's a very kid energy.
Thank you.
Is improv. And it actually...
Everybody sign up. Dave McGrath, the greatest therapist, and Freudian psychoanalyst.
I was a psych major. He
just analyzed my whole entire life. Thank you for those of you.
But it makes sense.
No, exactly. So I'm literally writing a book called Play.
Yeah.
How Play saved this Asian classical pianist from, like, a life of torture. Because this was
from a brain aneurysm killing you, like, because you were.
It was because I had led a life of no choice. Like, it was. Right. I was super disempowered. Like, because everything I was doing was not from my choice. Right. And then Japanese hierarchy is such that you have to bow down to the elders. So my sister being older, I have to
unquestionably too, like, right?
Yeah, and then she ordered me around.
Yeah. Well, that's my older sister, so I got to listen to her. That's the culture that...
And I never even complained to my parents, except that one day, once I got sick, my parents found out about it, and they got very mad at my sister. And my sister ended up, 10 years later, apologizing to me. Well, she officially apologized.
Well, that's something, right? I mean, that's good. That must have felt good for her. Yeah, I mean, do you think she was...
At least what I'm saying is that it wasn't like something I made up. Like, it wasn't saying, oh, she's just...
Right. It wasn't in your mind.
No, it wasn't
she realized, too, how bad it was.
Yeah, she was literally controlling what I ate, who I could see where I was every single day. And then she also
what was her rationale that you'd get off course as a piano player if you had fun? Like, it would affect your student life and your piano playing life if you didn't follow her regimen? Like, what was her...
Okay, so with her, she wasn't trying to make me a better pianist or anything.
She just like control.
We had a phone call where she apologized, and she said, "I just wanted revenge." She just wanted to torture me every day. That was
revenge for
she said,
what?
And I said,
for you being better than her.
She literally said, "Yeah, Mom was nicer to you, and you were more talented." Those are two reasons. I never did anything.
So she was a jealousy kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So. Yeah.
So, but you've made it past and you've kind of made amends, so that's good. So after that, those 5 years, what was your
2 years of rehab?
So you inpatient rehab or just
not like
counseling and
just my parents were just making sure I could walk and see because I had some vision problems, balance problems.
From the medical emergency?
No, the ground mal seizure. I was in a coma for 4 days.
What?
I was in a coma. It was a near-death experience. So,
did you see people like what?
Yeah, I heard God's voice and everything. So,
did you go down the tunnel? What happened? What do you remember?
Like that, I just became extremely psychic after. Okay. Like I would see people's auras.
Yeah,
I would also know people's names without ever meeting these people. I would have dreams.
Like you had a moment to connect to that.
Yeah.
Supernatural energy, and then when you came back, there was residual from it.
That literally, I heard a voice. It was a male voice. It said, "You had been given a second opportunity to live, to learn more about God." Literally, that was the first and last time I've ever heard a voice, literally, like from, like a speaker. And then I just saw people's auras and light and.
Wow.
dreams would come true. I would know things about you like without ever meeting
Yeah.
people. But then I had to go through a lot of healing, and
Yeah.
I had to have this one woman heal me and get my soul back in my body because I
Whoa.
really couldn't walk. Well, like I couldn't even
Like you had
wear-
been detached from your
Yeah, my
spiritual part of you had been detached a little bit from your
My
physical,
soul
and it was out of
apparently left
sorts,
my
and you needed
body.
to, yeah.
Yeah, kind of like
Was it a
that.
Reiki master that did that, or who?
No, it was okay. So if you want to get into it, it was a supernatural thing. So first of all, I've always been very spiritual and
Yeah.
psychic, which I think you now know or you knew. So during this time, I just kept hearing like, I have to see a healer. I have to see a healer. So when I went to Boston during the 2 years, the only places where I felt comfortable were churches. Like just I couldn't walk into a bus or a traffic. Like a regular world energy was too dense for me. So and I also couldn't wear a coat or carry anything because somehow my back would just like give out. I was super frail. So I was in a meditation group at the Trinity Church in Copley. And it was a woman's meditation group, and we sat in a circle, and I sat down, and there were two women that walked in that came in late, and I just said hi, and then we went into this like guided meditation journey, and after the whole journey, we all said something about ourselves, and I said something like, I'm visiting from Maryland, and I'm only here for 2 weeks, but I'm very grateful for your prayers because I had a national prayer chain going on when I was in a coma.
Okay.
So when I came and I told them that, and anyway, so I was about to leave when all of a sudden there were this woman who sat on my left said, she stood up, shook my hand and said, hi, I'm Kathy. I'm a healer. Call me. And she gave me a business card. And this was like, I had not told anyone.
Right,
I was
right,
looking
right.
for a healer. She goes, I'm a healer. And so the next day I call her number and she's like, why did you call me? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you told me to call you.
Right.
And then she said, okay, well, we have to meet at Bertucci's. And all of a sudden, when I go to Bertucci's, there's 3 other women. I mean, her and 2 other people. And then she goes, Sarah, the reason I didn't want to tell you I'm a healer is because this is something I keep, podcast, but
Yeah.
well, she said, this is, I like to keep it rather private, but what happened was while she was sitting next to me, she has a Saint Germain is one of her guys, talks to her all the time. And so Saint Germain basically said to her, you need to reveal yourself to the girl sitting next to you, and you must say you're a healer and shake her hand. And so she did what her voice told her to do, but she did
inner
not
voice.
want to do it. She didn't want to do it. She said, why would I do that? She's going to go back to Maryland. I don't want to be part of this. But apparently because Saint Germain kept telling her, she said, okay. So when I called her, she was shocked because I confirmed the fact that the guys
she was supposed to, right.
So then, so she told me, and then I ended up going to her house, and she was teaching a healing class with 3 of her students. And so I had a 3-hour healing session where she had this super amazing, unique, it wasn't Reiki, it was something else. She had learned a really unbelievable, powerful thing. And everything she at one point, she goes, oh my God, your grandfather is here. And I had to put your soul back in your body. Half of it was gone. Half of it was still out there. So I had to put it back, blah, blah, blah. So after that session, all of a sudden I could put on a coat.
Yeah, you felt different.
I could walk. I could balance. Everything was healed like that in 3 hours. It's just like, to this day, I bow down and thank her because she's the reason I have a normal life.
Is there a name for the process she did?
It's not Reiki, but it
Okay.
was something else but she wasn't that comfortable with her own talent.
Yeah.
So she still isn't really out there healing people. Apparently she's super talented.
Well, it sounds like she just listens
To
and
her.
finds the people that need it.
Yeah.
And
But
doesn't.
and I didn't even pay for it, by the way.
Right.
It's totally free.
Right.
But that was like a supernatural. And on top of it, my mom cured my eyes. My mom is a healer as well. Again, another willing healer. So after my coma and my eyes had rolled over, I couldn't really see well anymore. So I was crying. My mom put her hands on my head. This was in the 2 years that I was trying to heal. And and she started praying fervently, and I was crying because my life was over at that point. And she was putting her hand, and at one point I was lying there, and a jolt of electricity like went like right through my body, and I was just like, what? And then at that moment my mom went like this, and she goes, she saw something white come out of her palm of her hand, and she could feel the cells in my brain move. And then that was and then when I opened my eyes, I could see clearly again. My mom.
I mean, that's the that's the thing is like the universe is energy. That's all we are is energy, right?
Yeah.
And so like if people, and I think everyone, there's a spectrum of everything. There's a spectrum of math ability, music ability, psychic ability. Some people have none. Some people have, and I think that the healing energy is definitely a thing too. Like if you can channel whatever that is into you and then push it to someone. I know it's crazy because it's in the movie Star Wars. They actually can do that with the Force, channel healing energy.
Okay,
but it's,
Dave.
No, not everything's about Star Wars. But it's like, but that's what I'm very good at massage. Like I dated a massage therapist once.
I'm really good at massage too.
And she, when I was giving her a massage, she's like, "You're the best non-masseuse who's ever done."
Wow.
But all that is I'm taking my energy and I'm transferring.
Wow.
Like it's almost the same
You're
thing.
like a
You're
healer
transferring. You transform your energy and give it to someone
sweet.
else, and that's why it feels good because you're getting that. And
Wow.
Who knows what ability. Obviously, you experience something that's, your mom's a healer and could do that for your eyesight. Like,
wow. I'm actually, since you're, so I'm also curious, like how we all got into comedy, because I feel like some people, there are different directions that people come from when we do comedy. Some people really just want to do comedy, but some people like me, on my case, was definitely, I think we're finding out now even more so, is that because I had a life of such it was like a serious life. Like classical music is serious. Yeah. My Asian family was
growing up
serious.
Japanese is serious,
and there was no playtime. I never played, and it was just like a life of. And I had a lot of torture and negativity. And for me to come out of that,
do your parents have, or any sisters have, any sense of humor? Do you guys?
My sister's dead. My sister died.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Like about 7-8 years ago.
Oh, but
yeah.
Growing up, was there any laughter in the house?
So if my brother ever listens to this, I have given my brother credit for the comedy and jazz.
Okay.
So my brother and I were always closer than my sister and I.
Okay.
And my brother was the comic in the house.
Okay.
And also he was the guy who was into jazz. So he would always be doing some really funny impersonation of a Japanese comedian. Incidentally, folks, like there is... I always say, like in my comedy set, it's like, do you guys want to see an impersonation of a Japanese comic? And then I'll do just a stand there and just do nothing. And I'll be like, oh, incidentally, there are no female comedians in Japan because it's a total chauvinistic paternal country.
Because you're...
Literally all the comics.
Because if any little girl said they wanted to be one, it would be squished out like that, right?
Yeah. Also, we are from a culture where you don't talk.
Right.
Like it's all about
you're the servant. So
you don't want to
in
talk.
Service to the males, basically, right?
Yeah.
Is that
we just serve tea?
Yeah.
That would be my best impersonation of a female comic, is serving tea. But anyway, so my brother was very funny. He would impersonate Japanese comedians, and then me being infatuated with my brother, I wanted to be like him. So I just learned to imitate my brother. So whatever he did, I just did. And so I think from a young age, I was like, oh, being funny is really important to my brother. And so maybe from a young age, I started kind of acting really funny a lot. And then the other thing is, incidentally, at age 12, my brother literally said to my parents, this is how the difference in gender changes everything. Because when I was 12 years old as a girl in the family, and I said I want to quit piano, my mom just tore the letter, and there was no discussion. Right. Well, on the other hand, my brother at age 12 said to my parents, piano is for sissies. It's too feminine.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not doing this shit. Like, I'm going to play jazz trumpet. And my parents were like,
okay, no problem.
Like, no, it's like, what's the difference?
Wow.
So he quit piano and became a jazz trumpet player. And then I started hearing jazz a lot in my family. And I think that's why later in my life, like, I sing jazz now.
Okay.
And jazz has been very healing.
Yeah, that's great.
It's just like, it's the opposite of classical. Is there improv?
Right.
There's fun. There's the band. There's social element. And
There's
jazz guys are fun.
Right. And classical is you got to
It's
play
very-
this note at this
You must
time
play this
while
note.
they're playing that note at that time, or
And you
forget
can't,
it.
You there is no improv.
Right.
So, like, you must play whatever the composer wrote.
Right.
And if you don't play that note, you made a mistake. But in
Right.
jazz, if you don't
There
play the
isn't.
note that
Yeah,
you-
then
you know,
you just
that
you build
becomes-
off it, or yeah.
I love that. So
Yeah.
for me, like, jazz has been very healing. So jazz and comedy has been very healing. But I still want to know, like, how you guys.
Yeah, so like laughter in my family was I'm the middle of 5 kids, Irish Catholic. We were making jokes all the time about ourselves, about each other, and watched funny movies. I began watching stand up and listening to stand up when I would say in little before junior high. So always exposed to it, and then as I got older, started going to shows, and then didn't start performing. I got into performing. I was actually so my childhood, very loving, supportive family, but we was stricken with disease. Like, my older sister got type 1 diabetes. My younger brother had really bad asthma. I had to take him to the ER a few times. I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease when I was 14, brain cancer when I was 18.
You?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
But through all those medical
Wow.
situations, we still laughed. I still watched our funny things. We did, like, the laughter and comedy never
You
stopped.
conquered brain cancer?
I did.
That's actually, like, miraculous. Oh my god.
Yeah, well, so that's the other.
How did you
do
that?
both my Crohn's and cancer, my neighbor who lived right down the street on Bowman Street. With my
Wow.
my Crohn's, I was an idiot, and this will eventually get to my stand up. But
Wow.
with my Crohn's, I let the symptoms go for years.
Uh-huh.
I knew something was wrong, but I was like, well, I'm Mr. Hockey Player, tough guy. I can deal with pain, no problem.
Wow.
Then a neighbor of mine looked at me and he's like, I think your appendix is about to burst. You need to go to the ER tonight.
How do you know that? Like, that's
That's
always scary.
he examined me and he's like, something serious is going on. Like, he just knew. And they opened me up, took out 1.5 foot of my intestines.
Wow.
And I was diagnosed with Crohn's. 3 years later, I started having different symptoms. It was headaches and double vision. So instead of waiting like I did with my Crohn's, I waited years. I was like,
For
I
the
got to
brain cancer?
Yeah. So I was like, I got to go to the doctor. No, I didn't wait. That's the thing.
Oh,
I
that
didn't
one
wait
you
with the
did.
brain cancer. They found it right away. They found it like 4 days after I started having symptoms. They did a CAT scan. My neighbor, who's a doctor, who sent me to the ER for surgery, he came in and told me about visualization and using that while I was in treatment. So when they diagnosed me, they said you're going to need chemo followed by radiation. But I used visualization as I got the chemo, and then after my chemo, they're like, we don't know why, but you don't need radiation. So I was like, and I've been cancer-free ever since.
Wow.
So
and this was 18?
I was 14 when I was diagnosed with Crohn's and 18 when I was diagnosed with brain cancer.
Dude, that's
right.
But
that's the thing is, like, disease comes in different forms, right?
Yeah.
You had disease. Your disease was.
By the way, incidentally, I was going to say, if I was, I'm sorry, this is kind of a joke now that you're better.
Yeah.
I was going to say, well, if I did get cancer and it was brain cancer, I would be slightly happy that it means that I'm very smart.
Well, so that's the joke about my cancer is that even though it was in my brain, it was the same kind of cells as testicular cancer, proving I'm a dickhead. No, but that's true. But that's true, though.
My setup was that the bad news is I have brain cancer.
Right.
The good news is I, probably means that I'm just so much smarter than the rest of you people. Probably not using it enough and to get brain cancer. No,
the joke is my brothers and sisters called me a dickhead so much it manifested. Look, actually might not be that far from the truth.
Really, seriously?
Right.
Yeah,
So
because when you're young, you take things more.
Yeah.
Wow.
So then I got involved in this cancer nonprofit that their whole message was early detection. So they loved my story because I'm like poster boy for what not to do and then what to do when you're faced with symptoms. When I started doing that, I would intersperse jokes when I did that, and then I was like, oh, I've watched stand up. I can turn this into so and then I started.
How.
Yeah.
Wow, beautiful. Wow, that's so cool.
And then Mark saw me perform stand up, and I was like, if Dave can do it, I can do it. I don't know what. What gave you the bug?
I want to become this guy's teacher.
Yeah, I can manage this guy.
Wait. No, I do want to hear how Mark got started.
How I got started, or how did I first fall in love with stand-up, or how did I?
Yeah, all of it.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
I always found being funny very important.
Okay. Oh, important.
Like if I, as a kid, if I made a joke, I would think about it for days, or if somebody else made a joke. But I didn't really become aware of stand-up until I moved here
to America.
And when I started high school here, I would come home from school, and on the cable, this is the first time we had cable TV, they were constantly showing stand-up clips, one after the other, of all these famous people.
Wow.
And it just in like 1 minute or 5 minute, and I just loved it. I watched so much, and I was like, but I can never do that. You know, it's like being a movie star. It seemed impossible, but I was like, it would be cool to do it.
Cool. Yeah.
And then I started writing around when I was like 40 or something, and I'm like, I'm never gonna do it, but I'm just gonna.
Over.
But at that point, you were a performing musician, right?
I was performing as a musician.
So you
started at
could
35,
be in front of 35 performing as a musician.
Did
music. That's so cool.
Yeah. I was my hands.
So you had 5 years of performing in front of an audience. So that I think that helps.
So I slowly started kind of coming out of my shell, and then I also wanted to do acting, and so I took an acting class and an improv class.
Wait, where did you take the improv?
At Worcester. It was the Hanover had opened up this conservatory.
Okay. After
they had their theater there for like maybe 10 years, and then they opened up a school. And so that was really scary. But by the time I got to the end of that, I feel like I could maybe do stuff. Ooh. And I said, well, if I don't do stand up now, when am I going to do it?
Yeah, that's great.
And the fear of being 75 and looking back and saying,
I never did it.
I tried it.
Oh my God, that's so great.
Greater than the fear I had of getting on stage.
Yeah. Cheers,
so
man.
I had to do it. So that
great.
I wouldn't have regrets, and
that's so.
Somehow.
Thank God you don't get nervous at all before you go on now.
Yeah,
I still do.
I love bombing. Is that our favorite part? We look forward to bombing.
No, strange.
No,
I'd rather just be on a really bad show. Like one time, I was in Connecticut at an open mic, and it was just 8 comedians. That was it. So there were 7 people. There were 7 people.
7 people and 8 comedians.
In the audience who were all comics.
So it was
saw me go. Yeah, there were no audience.
There was no audience.
It was just comics.
That was a show?
That was it.
Oh, okay.
It was an open mic.
Show.
Yes.
Wait. Who was supposed to go up? Was it just you? But 7 people were on?
No, 8 people showed up to sign up for the show who was also the audience.
Okay,
there were no.
Okay. Yeah.
That was pretty bad.
And you're saying that did.
That to me, I like that more than bombing. That's what I'm saying. I'd rather do that than because you're not getting many laughs at that, right? Yeah. But I'd rather have that than be at a room full of 50 people and bombing.
Oh my God! Yeah.
That's tough. When was your first stand-up performance? When did you get into it?
So mine is more that it's a performance thing.
Yeah.
Because basically what it is for me, since I performed with the orchestra when I was 11,
right.
And then basically I've been doing, I've been on TV, radio, everything. I Kennedy Center, Carnegie Hall. So as far as performing goes, I've been nervous a lot, but eventually when you perform so much,
you just,
eventually you start really developing that thick skin. And then in for example, high school, I was in show choir. Show choir was, I actually got to sing and dance on stage. So I started doing that. That's when I that's actually what I wanted to be. After high school, my goal was to move to Florida and join the Walt Disney Company and become a professional show choir person, because actually our show choir was very competitive nationally, and so the Walt Disney guy came up to work with us, and we made a professional video, and so he had invited us to come join the company. And so I asked my parents again, like the really very encouraging moment. I said, hey, Mom and Dad, I really, really want to do this for my career. I want to go to Walt Disney World and become a singer dancer. And I just got the brief.
How old were you when you did that?
When I was graduating from high school, like
17, so 18.
Yeah,
oh, okay.
17, 18,
and they said no. Sorry.
Yeah. And then I continued on
then
to
went,
the piano.
They said you're going to college. Right.
Yep. But anyway, so I had a little bit of that, but that's what I wanted to do. And then I continued on with the piano. And then in junior year at New England Conservatory, there was a jazz masterclass. And they looked for a volunteer who wasn't a jazz pianist. And so it was some famous jazz guy that I don't remember. But anyway, so I got up on to do this improv thing that they asked me to do. And after that masterclass, all my jazz friends were like, Sarah, you are so good at jazz. You should just become a jazz pianist. And so again, I wanted to be a jazz pianist. I thought that seemed really fun. So for the first time, I wanted to do something with the piano, but in jazz. Right. So I called my parents, and now like the viewers are already. I called my parents.
I was like, just do it, Sarah.
I just found something I really, really love, and I want to become a jazz pianist. And I just got this over the phone. I just could tell they were nodding sideways. No, basically meaning I couldn't even switch to become a jazz piano major. I wanted to be a jazz pianist. They said no. So I continued with this classical piano thing, which I really didn't want to do, but I kept doing it.
But you still were kicking ass at it, though.
Yeah,
so that's a little encouraging that at least you were good at it.
Yeah, I was really good at it.
Really
it was just
good
like
at it.
so lonely.
Right.
Because jazz piano just
you're more. You have to vibe with other
so
people,
much more
right?
Fun.
Yeah.
But it's just a solitary thing. So I kept doing that. But anyway, the point was, I was really into jazz, didn't do it. I was really into show choir, didn't do it. And then as I started doing my own faculty shows and as I became an adult, I instead of just a regular stiff classical piano concert, the part of me that felt like at least I have freedom when I do concerts.
Right.
So that's when I started injecting my piano concerts with theater.
Nice.
Like I would do comedy with my piano concerts, choreography with my concerts.
Like you into the mic, or you'd have a comedian with you performing?
Not necessarily a comedian, but so I started doing this, and one professional clown from a real circus, like he went to clown college. Right. He was in the circus.
There is such thing as a clown college.
Not the Ringley brothers, but the other one.
Right.
And he was in the audience, and he goes, Sarah, you're like a total clown. Like you're like a natural clown. And then he recruited me to do shows with him where I'm playing the mini piano. But,
and he's acting.
Yeah, he wanted me to be a clown with him.
Oh,
and
okay.
I said no.
Right.
But then we did some improv skit where it went like super great. And he was like, we're doing clowning. So I started doing clowning. But all my concerts.
Like makeup and the whole deal? You did it?
No. Like he's a clown, but like clown without the costume.
Okay.
He would have the nose.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't have the nose, but we did clown stuff.
Just the motions and the actions and the expressions.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I started doing clown. So all my shows started becoming improv and me clowning.
Reliving a childhood you were taking.
And then, so I started doing more and more theatrical stuff. And it turns out that people were just laughing whenever I do my shows because I'm just naturally funny and just being funny. And then at one point, IB, Improv Boston, was offering classes. And I was like, oh, I'm totally going to take classes. I was not interested at all in stand-up, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I really, really, really wanted to do improv theater. So I took like 1.5 years of their classes, went all the way up to like the 6th level, and then COVID hit.
Oh.
But around that time, one of them were like, Sarah, you should also do stand-up, because one of the faculty at the school, we were friends. And I was telling him about the Japanese and the American and the dichotomy and how it's so different. But he thought it was funny. He's like, you got material for stand-up. And I'm like, I don't like stand-up. It's just work.
And it's a writing.
Like classical piano.
Yeah,
because it's like you got to do homework, right?
Right.
Improv classes is just show up
right,
and
do it. Right.
So he was like, but you really should. So I was like, all right, I'll take one class with Dan Crone. So
okay.
That one class.
I've worked with
and
him.
To be honest with you, it still didn't like do any spark for me.
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was kind of like I'm just going through the motions
of doing
like
what you
I'm
have to
writing
do.
this
Right.
thing. But for me, because in class you weren't playing together,
Right.
I just wanted to play.
Right,
and
right,
it was just
right.
like show up with her. So
Right.
and I was like, it's okay, whatever. But anyway, so the classmates were like into it. They were like, oh, I'm gonna become a stand-up comedian. So I'm gonna follow these people. And they were like, okay, now the class is over, but I'm going to go hit some mics. And I didn't even know what a mic was. I didn't know because I just wasn't into it.
Right.
But I was like, okay, let me see what it looks like. So I said, can I follow you guys? And they said, we're going to Sally O'Brien. It's a Monday mic.
Is that the Quincy?
It was
No.
in Union Square.
Oh, okay.
And it was like the biggest mic 4 years ago or something.
Oh, okay.
And so 5 years ago. So they say they're going. And I said, what time's the mic? I just want to go watch.
Right.
So I said, I'm going to come watch. And I showed up and there are 50 comics, like literally one of the 50. And they were like,
on
Sarah,
the list?
On the list.
That's
and,
nuts.
and they go, Sarah, are you? Oh, so I walk in to just sit down, and the host goes, "Hey, so are you signing up?" And I'm like, "No, I'm just here to watch." But then they're like, "Well, if you're gonna be watching, you might as well." And so there was number 39, and that was the first line that was available. I was like, "All right, I'll just put my name on it," and I got some drinks, and I'm sitting there for 2 hours, and at that point I'm getting more and more drunk.
50, like that's a 4-hour show.
Yeah,
50,
no, it was so freaking long.
Crazy.
Was it 5 minutes sets?
Yeah, four
anything
minutes
other
probably.
than anything above 30, you gotta.
To be
cut
honest
off
with
that
you,
list.
I didn't know anything about the culture. All I knew is I was gonna watch my friend.
Right,
I didn't know what
perform.
a mic was. I was just sitting there. And they were like, literally, it was the most popular mic at the time. And I remember. Oh, I said to the host when I signed my name, I said, by the way, I'm just putting my name down, but if I get scared, can I like not do it? And he goes, sure. Like,
yeah.
So with that, that's what I felt. I thought I was going to maybe skip on it.
Right.
But like 39, it took forever. And by that time I watched everyone go up.
And you're like, I could do
and
it?
I'm just
or?
like, well, maybe give it a try. And so right before the host was like, no dick jokes here. Like,
really?
Yeah, I don't know if he was joking. I didn't know what was going
on.
on.
Do you remember who it was? Who the host was?
Dude, I don't know because I wasn't in the game. So I was
Dan Crone there? He
was
he didn't go with you guys.
there, but it was like all these guys, definitely no Japanese girl in there. And then all of a sudden, and I heard something, maybe he was joking. He's like, no dick jokes or so whatever. So I go up, my turn. It's like the first thing I said, I put an accent because I figured that would be funny. So, oh, hello, I'm so sorry, but I have no dick jokes. No dick jokes. But I can talk about butt plugs. And then I started with that, and then everybody just went.
Yeah, it just like blew up. Yeah.
And I started doing these bowing jokes and whatever. And then turns out apparently I took the whole house down. So as soon as
your first time.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was my first mic in my entire life. So literally the entire place.
Not many people
blew
can
up.
say that. Not many people can say that.
No. And then the host goes up like around 10 more people later, and then there was another guy who also blew up too, and after him who's like number 40 something. He goes, I just want to say, so the host goes up, and so tonight's winner is, and I'm like, I didn't know there was a winner. He said, tonight's winner is Sarah Infini T.
Whoa.
This other guy,
the
white guy, he said, you guys tie for first place. You guys both win bumping rights. You can get whatever you want from the bar.
Wow.
Drinks, whatever. And I was like, what does and he goes, you get bumping rights? And I'm like, what's bumping rights?
It sounds dirty.
I didn't even know what that means.
Yeah.
So, and then people were like, yeah, you were so funny. Your accent, blah. And I'm like, really? I'm improvised.
Right, yeah, you didn't have a plan when you went up there.
I just improvised on the spot.
Right.
or like
first thing you thought of was
and
butt
people
plugs.
were like, dude, like you're so good. And I was like, really? I still didn't really get it.
Yeah.
Because that was my first time.
Right.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but you must have felt when everyone blew up in laughter, you must have felt that.
Yeah,
like,
but I still didn't know what that meant because I
Right.
still didn't know what stand-up culture was.
Right.
So I think that was like whatever, and I didn't really pursue it that much either.
So that was 2019?
Yeah. Yeah, and then but then COVID hit.
Yeah.
I was focused on being an improv actress.
Right.
Like I wanted to join the theater, the group.
Improv troupe in Boston.
Yeah, so stand-up to me, that was like whatever, like and then I just wanted, but COVID hit and Improv Boston closed.
Right.
And
a lot of
then
everything closed.
I couldn't join the thing. But then people were like, hey, you can still do stand-up.
Right.
And that's when I started. Basically during COVID, I started kind of getting into it.
Okay. Yeah, I got way more into writing, just writing part and writing screenplays when COVID hit. I wrote
when people said
summer of 2020, I wrote 2 screenplays.
Screenplays?
Yeah.
That's amazing. So what are you doing with that? Are you?
I've written like 6 or 7 of them. Like
I've been on 3 films this year.
I was gonna say you've branched out. You act, you sing, you improv, you do comedy.
And this is catching up to all the.
What would screen acting be your number one? No, but would that be your number one choice if you could have any job? You just want to do all of them. You just want to do all of them.
I think I'm just reliving my childhood playtime.
Dreams that you haven't
and I
got a chance to.
I never got to play or do anything, so I think it's a little bit of acting. It turns out that I didn't know that I was pretty good at film acting because
what were they? You want to mention what they're called? What you were in?
They were still
Are they
Emerson like college thing, but it's still going to be played at the Paramount Theater in May.
Oh, nice.
May, and then
so they're in production.
And then one in June that I did was a 72-hour Asian American filter competition.
Whoa!
And we wrote this script, or I didn't write it.
Right.
Neil wrote it in one day. We memorized it in a few hours. And then we filmed it in one day. We turned it.
So that's the competition rules. You got to do it in a day. Wow.
In 3 days. So
whoa.
We made the top 50, and it's going to premiere December 14th on their YouTube channel.
It did, or it will.
It's going.
Oh, that's great.
This year.
What? And so, what's the name of that? Where can people go to?
It's called AAFL.TV or something like that. So, I think for me, I'm interested. It's just that I do have to teach and have a job to live every day.
Is teaching, is that your main source of income is teaching?
So
like me.
So there you go. So to do film acting, you have to drop everything and be available. And so if it weren't for that, if I had all the time in the world, I would definitely do more. Yeah. But right now, because I have a schedule, and that's why, thank you, Mark,
where we
for hosting
figured
me
this
on
out.
Sunday,
Yeah.
Because I had to teach like pretty much every single day, and I couldn't make the time.
Right.
So I think if I had all the time in the world, I would probably do more film. And again, stand up, I started getting into it because during COVID there was nothing else to do. So that's kind of.
And also it's social, so you probably like that aspect.
Yeah, but here's the thing, not really social. See, I would have been happy to just come to Mike's and be friends with you guys, but I noticed like I can't talk to you guys unless I go up. Meaning, if I don't actually do comedy, I can't talk and make friends. So
you can go to shows and not perform.
Yeah, but it's like you don't. It's like jazz. Like if you don't sing, you don't become friends with the band guys. And I found that I make friends by doing stand up,
right,
and then making fun of Mark most of the time. Like I was like,
yeah, the other day, Mark was
sitting on material.
Yeah, the other day he was sitting on my lap, and it was just like really I'm just kidding, but I think a lot of the times it's like I make friends by doing the thing. So part of my motivation in doing stand up, partly for me, is social. It really is.
Yeah, that's cool. And you enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Is improv your number one when you're performing? What kind of performance resonates with you the most? Is it improv? Whether that's playing
say I'm pretty
or
good at improv in general.
And you speak as well. I saw some of your talks. You gave a talk on improv and comedy, right? Yeah.
So here's the thing. My mission is classical music culture is a little bit toxic in the sense that it's very uptight and serious, and they don't really. They're not very funny. They're not into humor, and they're not into making mistakes. It's a little bit of a perfectionism.
It's more mathematical almost.
But here's the thing. See, but there's a little what do you call it? Like hypocrisy in there, because see, all the classical music we're playing were composed by all these composers who all improvised. See,
to get
there
there.
Beethoven, Liszt, Chopin, all these composers had an improv culture where they would get together with wine and cheese to their homes, and they would play a theme and be like, "Hey, bro, why don't you improvise on this?" And Liszt would improvise. Everybody would improvise. We would drink and eat and be merry. And so
like a workshop environment almost.
In concerts they would perform improvisation. So what I'm trying to say is that it died in like 20 cents. For the past 100 years, for some reason, performers just stopped improvising. And so I'm on a mission to bring
it back.
Improv back to classical music. And so there's a class starting in the spring semester where I'm teaching an improv class to the prep kids at the conservatory.
Nice.
And it's not just improv, but it's going to be solo and ensemble improv in music, and then also theater. So it's going to be in a theatrical, really brand new theater called Black Box Theater at the conservatory, and it's going to be like acting and comedy and music and like improvising on 4 notes that the audience gives them, that kind of thing.
Nice. Is this for high school kids, college kids? What?
Yeah, from 8 to 18.
8 to 18.
Yeah,
great.
And we're auditioning kids right now, and it's going to be first of its kind. There's never been anything like it.
That's awesome.
And I'm changing, like I feel like I'm bringing something brand new to the classical music culture, so it's my way of contributing, bringing back something. At the same time, also having fun and being paid for that. So I'm
well, if you
excited.
Can get paid to have fun, that's, right? I mean, isn't that the goal, right?
So the first time Mark actually paid me for my comedy, that was sweet.
Yeah, it is a good feeling. It is a good feeling. I remember when I had to report on my taxes, I was like, wow, that means I'm actually.
Oh my God, seriously, you made it report.
So I actually back in the day, I don't know. You ever went to the on God. Park Ave in Worcester? There was
I used to go there.
Attic. So
I became
it was called Dick Doherty's, but back
the
5. So the Park Grill
used to be something else.
It used to be Dick Doherty's comedy club.
Okay.
I worked the door there for 2 years.
Okay.
Then he retired.
Okay.
Then
it
became
Park Grill,
and he got his new guys. So now it's nothing. Correct.
What is it now?
We have no clubs in Worcester right
now. I know, because there was a time during COVID, I used to go to Worcester all the time.
Yeah, it was big. There was kind of an explosion, like a rebirth or something.
Really
but then it,
scene there.
Yeah, it was definitely grown. We had just opened the Woo-Ha-Ha when I started.
Yeah.
So we had 2 clubs.
Yeah. But now it's the Vernon. That's it, right? Or
which isn't a comedy club.
No.
Yeah, but it's not.
The Vernon
really...
is the closest, probably. To.
Yeah, but there's no like there. At least it felt like you're in a comedy club before.
Yeah, it was upstairs. Anything that's off ground level usually makes a good comedy club.
Really?
Yeah, like either going downstairs or going upstairs for some reason, because people lose their sense of the world.
Yeah, yeah, because it's
but the post office pub in Grafton, we just did a show there. It was a good room. That felt like more like a club.
Yeah.
Oh,
separate.
Nice.
You were separate.
Yeah, I got to come out to that. Yeah. Sorry, I haven't made it because it's a teaching schedule. I would teach until 8 or something, and then that meant that I wouldn't be able to come to the mics or the shows. And also,
you're out in Boston? Where?
Yeah. Burlington is closer to Boston.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I have a friend who lived in Burlington.
Yeah, and also I've been on vocal rest since June, so they found 3 nodules in my vocal cord this summer. And so I'm working with a vocal rehab person. And so the doctor put a camera down my throat, and he had me sing, talk, and do comedy.
And comedy was the worst.
And he said the comedy was the worst. And so the person I'm working with said, you could probably start singing soon. Like,
that's good.
I'm already starting to sing a little bit now. But she said comedy will be Jedi level is what I've been told. So either I have to totally change my style or only... talk to quiet crowds, but never those dive bars where you have to
boom your voice.
They're just bad for your voice, anyways. Do you guys ever still go to the loud places on purpose? No. Do you ever?
I try to avoid challenging places in general, but I mean, to get really good at comedy, you have to do the
tough rooms too.
What's your philosophy? I feel like it was good for me to do that, and I feel like one thing I'm very good at loud places.
Yeah.
Mainly because I don't know if it's like I have balls or I have a samurai blood, which is for real.
I was going to ask you about that. You come from samurai warriors? Yeah. How far back?
Check this out. So this is a very hypocritical family I come from. So my grandfather and my great grandfather are both Christian ministers, but before that, also samurai clan. So before that, we have 2 generations of really wonderful, good people who have been like blessing people and being kind. It was all about kindness. And then right before that, it was all about, if you fucking offend me, I'm going to chop your neck off. I mean, head off. I mean, so it's like, I don't know.
So there must have been someone that came from a samurai warrior that said, I don't want to do that, and I'm going to be a priest. Yeah, well, also right? that
samurai era ended, too. It's like there was out of jobs. And if you watch Tom Cruise in Last Samurai. Yeah.
Which I'm sure is 100%.
Tom Cruise was the last samurai.
And I'm sure, I was going to say 100% historically accurate movie, right? They never get it right. See, my younger brother is a history, got his master's in history, and he can't stand when movies aren't right? And I'm like, but Tom, the whole point of those is someone might watch that and then they'll get into it. And then they'll research and they'll find the real story. That's the whole point of those, right? It's not to show you the real story, get you into it, and then you find out the real story.
Yeah, you have a very empath.
What was that Mel Gibson one? Braveheart.
There was a lot of inaccuracies in that. But it was still a great movie. I mean, it won a bunch of awards and people.
It was commercially a great success, but if you ask anyone in Scotland, they're like, what the hell?
But it got the point across that England was bullshit. Like all those Mel Gibson movies do. That one, The Patriot. It's like, if Mel Gibson is fighting England,
But Dave, so tell us about your screen film. I want to hear about that. I mean, you're all over the place too. I mean, it's just like
writing and performing and teaching. Yeah, I mean, writing is.
So what do you teach?
I teach intense needs first graders. That's mostly who I'm working with.
So that's why you got the healing.
Kids on the spectrum, not some nonverbal kids.
That's
kids
amazing.
with emotional behavioral issues. Yeah.
You have to be psychic to work these jobs because
I don't know about psychic, but they feed off your energy, right? Yeah, so I'm really calm, fun, but also you still have to get work done. So they know I'm silly, but I'm also
you're firm.
Yeah.
That's
so
that's awesome.
And I'm the only male
that's great.
Staff other than a couple of part-time PE teachers and custodians. I'm the only male staff at the school, which is kind of crazy. Well, it makes me popular.
Let's just say Dave is enjoying his job. That's what happens. Yeah. I used to teach at Wellesley College for a while, and I got to tell you, it doesn't matter if you're gay or straight. It's just you always feel you're treated like a king. Okay, so if you even look like a man, they'll treat you great, because the problem is there's overabundance of women at Wellesley College, and I was the chair of the piano department for the last 3 years, but I gotta say, everybody was in a bitchy mood all the time. It was like everybody was having their periods or their menopause at the same time. So I would try to get just my publicity person or the secretary to just one question hey, next Friday, can I reserve this room? But if I dare walk into the office at the wrong time, which was always the wrong time, it's don't ask me now, talk to me later. However, I would used to bribe anonymously. I won't put the name here, but there was a male colleague of mine who, I would just say something like, let's say his name was John. Hey, John, could you just go into the office and ask if we can reserve the Friday? And then I'll just be like, I'll buy you coffee. And so when he walks in and asks the exact same question at the same, 2 minutes later, our secretary would be like, oh, hi, can I do anything? It was like if you're a guy at Wellesley College, they treat you well.
But if you're a woman, you're just one of many.
So I guess they must treat you well.
All my coworkers and the students are great.
Yeah.
I'm one of the, I wouldn't say very few people, but not a lot of people in this country look forward to going to work. I walk into work and I look forward to it.
That's so sweet.
Even though it's still not my number one job choice, but I can still say I enjoy
that's
going
so
to work, which
great.
is great.
That's
Yes.
wonderful. And what? So I'm sorry, we dive.
That's okay.
Yes. So what are these films about?
The screenplays
Yeah.
I've written like some autobiographical ones about
Wow.
Crohn's and brain cancer.
Wow.
I've written some buddy road trip movies.
Oh, sweet.
I wrote a like what would be like a Christmas animated Christmas special. So like
sweet.
all over the place.
Yeah. Have
But
you ever tried to get it?
I've shared them with. I have some friends in the industry. I share them. Got some feedback. That's about it. But I mean, the key is getting an agent, getting in. You know,
because
you
it's
got to get
money.
in, right?
It's the budget.
Yeah, you
It's
gotta
the
get-
budgeting.
you gotta
Although
get
if you reach maybe a film department in a college, they might be.
Well, if you get the right person attached,
Yeah.
right, whether that's
Yeah.
the director or someone in it, an actor, if you get
Yeah.
the right person attached, that's also how.
Yeah.
Do you know who Ed Burns is? Have you ever heard of? He's a
That sounds very
writer,
cool.
director.
Yeah.
He wrote a book about his movie making process, and
Okay.
one of his first brothers,
Yeah.
McMullen, won a bunch of awards. So he was an award-winning movie maker. It's still hard for him to make a movie. Like I read his book, and I'm like, it's hard for him, how am I gonna do
Yeah.
it? But
Yeah.
again, very educational.
Yeah.
I also
Yeah.
read that during the pandemic summer.
Right.
But Sarah, I hate to tell you,
Yeah,
we
okay.
are
We are out of-
we are over an hour.
Yeah.
I told you it would not.
Ooh.
Yeah, I told you it wouldn't take long. You are a great guest. A lot
Thank
of
you so
stories. I
much.
hope we have you back at some
Thank
point
you.
to continue.
Episode 24.
So thank you so much for being us. Where can our listeners go if they want to find more about you?
I think you know what. Let's not pretend we have to go through stuff. I think if people
Okay.
know who my name, you
They
just
already they'll
Google.
and they'll find you. They'll find you
People will hunt me
online.
down.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sarah. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome.
This was so much fun.